What is going on, everyone? Badger here. Today, it seems, is the 10-year anniversary of The Force Awakens being released. And I know I certainly thought, oh, okay, yeah, this isn't exactly what I thought, but hey, it's going to turn into something great. And it didn't. And now, 13 years after Disney buying Lucasfilm and Star Wars for $4 billion, we are firmly in the apathy is death segment where no one cares, where Mandalorian and Grogu trailer comes out and it barely cracks 11 million views and no one is talking about it. Even on Star Wars Theory, on Rule of Three, the largest Star Wars show in the world, it would seem, and we weren't even talking about it then because everyone's moved on, including George Lucas. Now, this is not the first time George has said stuff like this, and it probably won't be the last. He is currently going around and talking about the George Lucas Museum of Narrative Art, which is on track to open next year in Los Angeles. And by this account, the project has reportedly cost him $1 billion. So, oh boy. And he's been talking about it. And in a recent interview with the Wall Street Journal, he said that he explained he's eager for it not to become known as the Star Wars Museum. He says it's one gallery out of 33, and I did it grudgingly. So that should tell you something. A seemingly exasperated Lucas said, I didn't want people to come to the museum and say, where's the Star Wars? I love you, George. That is what everyone will say. The moment we walk into that, people will say, where's Star Wars? We're not going to be looking for Red Tails or American Graffiti or THX 1138 or Fly, but any of those things. Sorry, we are going to go to the Star Wars. And of course, this is what everyone is taking and quoting. You're seeing everyone, George Lucas slams Star Wars. Well, not really, but I guess you could take it that way. Addressing the current state of the franchise and how he views the world he created now, he says Disney took it over and they gave it their vision. That's what happens. Of course, I've moved past it. I mean, I've got a life. I'm building a museum. A museum is harder than making movies. So that's the recent thing that's getting everyone talking about it. But it is also hardly the only time he's talked about it. He said here, when The Force Awakens came out, which we're now celebrating 10 years of, he says, I was the one who really knew Star Wars, who really knew what Star Wars was, who actually knew this world, because there's a lot to it. The Force, for example, nobody understood the Force when they started after one. When they started other ones after I sold the company, a lot of the ideas that were in the original sort of got lost. But that's the way of it. You give it up. You give it up, and we know that George felt betrayed by them because look. I thought it was a good idea to sell to Marvel too. You got to understand that in 2012, Marvel was at the height of being Marvel. They had a very good cinematic MCU going at the time that just had banger after banger. George, again, he was in his late 70s, didn't want to spend another decade making 3 movies, had a negative time on the prequels, even if the prequels now have all aged great and everyone likes them. That's certainly compared to the sequel. When I say everyone, because there's still some dedicated prequel haters. I know that. But the point is, he sold it to Bob Iger and Disney in good faith that they would use his script treatments, of which he gave 3 of them to them for all their movies, and they just ignored all of it. And even Bob talked about, Lucas felt betrayed after that. You can see from George's or Bob Iger's memoirs here, he says, George knew we weren't contractually bound to anything, but he thought that our buying the story treatments was a tacit promise that we'd follow them, and he was disappointed that his story was discarded by the people that he thought were his allies, Kathleen Kennedy, Dave Filoni among them. Yes. I'd been so careful since our first conversation not to mislead him in any way, and I didn't think I had now, but I could have handled it better. Now, in the first meeting with him about the future of Star Wars, George felt betrayed. And while this whole process would never have been easy for him, we'd gotten off to an unnecessarily rocky start. So yeah, from almost day one, George felt betrayed by Disney based on promises that were made and not kept. And he's, of course, been ever so slightly vocal. Like on Force Awakens, he said they wanted to do a retro movie. I don't like that. Every movie I worked very hard to make them different. I made them completely different planets, different spaceships to make it anew. And we all know, at least that first one, it copied A New Hope beat for beat. He said, you know, the fans are going to love it. It's very much the kind of movie they've been looking for. And it did make $1 billion. And I'd argue that had they let Luke just build his Jedi Academy and train Rey and Finn in the second one, we would be in a far healthier place than we really are. He also said a Rise of Skywalker, that no, Lucas believed that the Emperor was absolutely dead. So, I mean, even when he gave the okay for the Emperor to come back in the expanded universe, it wasn't actually the Emperor in total. It was like just part of his very evil spirit, and a clone body that kept breaking down. So, I mean, they tried to adapt it, but no, it was nowhere close. And then, of course, we also talked about them killing off Han Solo, and that right there ruined it for plenty of people, including Chris Gore. And I know Harrison himself wanted Han to be killed. Even back in Return of the Jedi, he didn't want the Millennium Falcon. He wanted Han to be on the Millennium Falcon, have it blow up. Just not what was in the cards. But it is what Disney did, and alienate people it did. And here we are, Star Wars, including this video, will probably do horrible numbers because people don't care. And that is Disney film. That's Disney, Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, Dave Filoni, specifically their fault for mishandling almost everything. Well,
yes.
Case in point. Anyway, there it is. If you see things, you like, did George slam Star Wars? No, he just said he's over it. He's got a life to live, and it's sad to see him so fully have to disavow and separate himself, but not surprising. So let me know what you think about this. By all means, make sure to like, share, and sub. If you have done that, thank you. If you're going to do that, thank you. And
well, bye.